The Earley Show will begin after a brief word from today's sponsor, Answering Legal. Visit answeringlegal.com to learn more about our 24/7 virtual receptionist team.
Answering Legal has been pivotal to allow our virtual law firm to thrive. Without them, we would not be able to handle the call volume that comes to our law firm. We needed a service that would allow us to be able to take those messages, yet still focus on working with our clients and be able to call them back. Answering Legal has been phenomenal on getting a great customer service relationship with people that are calling into the firm, taking messages, giving us those messages, and we can get back to them very shortly.
Hi everyone, it's Chris, and welcome to another episode of the Earley Show, sponsored by our friends over at Answering Legal. As always, we have a real treat for you, and today we're going to mix things up. We have our first ever episode with a non-attorney, because attorneys love you to death, but it's also good to get away from the attorney space and talk to someone who's inside the industry, helping attorneys market their business and growing their practices. So today we have Maria Monroy from LawRank. Maria really is a student of digital marketing. She helps lawyers from across the country with their marketing, with SEO, with digital. So I really wanted to just get her on. I appreciate her coming on to chop it up, get into digital marketing, how lawyers can better grow their practices. Maria, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate this.
No, thank you. I feel special. The first non-lawyer. That's neat. Thank you.
It's going to be good. All right. So as always, listeners, make sure you sharpen your pencils. We're going to be really dropping some knowledge. That's the whole point of the show is to geek out in this stuff. And so I'm excited. So Maria, I know what you do, but could you just tell the audience what you do, who you help? Please go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we primarily work with personal injury law firms that want to grow their business via digital, primarily local and organic SEO. We do work with other types of law firms, but 90% of our clients are in the personal injury space.
Is it criminal defense as well that you guys help, or no?
We do criminal defense, family law, employment law, workers' comp and MedMal, which I would argue are still, especially MedMal, still under the PI umbrella. Outside of that, currently, we don't have any clients.
Okay, very good. So you first came my radar by seeing you speak at conferences. And I know you're on the conference trail a lot. I am. I always talk about that in the show. When I get on airplanes and I get out of my office, I learn, I grow, I network, I connect. And I've seen you on stage a few times, really, dropping some really good knowledge about the 3-pack, about SEO. So we're going to get into that. So just before we go there, I just kind of want to hear, so I believe your husband is a lawyer, or no?
Yes. So he went to UCLA Law. It was a second career. So he was in his late 30s. He's never taken the bar, never practiced law, because we started LawRank while he was in law school. Yeah, totally by chance. I can tell you a little bit about it if you'd like.
Please. I love that.
So his brother, who went to law school at the normal age, was a DA in LA, and he left the DA's office after being there, something crazy, 13 years, and said to my husband, "Hey, you're pretty techie. I need a website. Can you figure out how to get a website up and running for me?" My husband said, "Sure." It was summer, so he didn't have school at the time. And my husband just became fascinated by this idea of how does Google choose who shows up, right? So because he was in law school, he was like, well, I can write legal content. And he had access to all the, LexisNexis, all of that. So he just kind of became obsessed. And I was actually annoyed at the time. And he still holds this against me because we were in New York City visiting his sister, and he wouldn't leave because I wanted to go play in the city, and he wouldn't leave because he's like, he got a phone call today. He signed a client. I just need to get him to the first page. And I was like, dude, you're not even getting paid for this.
Yep.
What are you doing?
Yep.
Right. So long story short, his brother started doing amazing, from working out of a Starbucks to office with a full staff. in a matter of months. And then other law firms started calling his brother saying like, how did you blow up so quickly? Like, who does your SEO? So we just kind of looked at each other one day and we're like, okay, we need a legit agency. Like it's time, right? So that's
Yeah.
when it started.
So it sounds like you happened upon this somewhat by accident, right?
Total
You
chance.
you weren't yourself personally in the legal space,
Nope.
right? But you're connected by your husband to the space. Then he sort of got involved in the marketing. So it sounds like that's when a light bulb went off. Is that kind of what happened, or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Literally, we just looked at each other because his brother started paying him. He's like, you can't stop doing this.
Hmm.
Looked at each other one day. We're like, okay, we need to start an agency. And by the last year of law school, because he was going part time, he wasn't even sure if he should finish because we were already doing very well financially. And there was no point. He wasn't going to go practice law. It would have been a pay cut. Um,
Uh-huh.
Even like big law would have been a pay cut at that point. So he finished because we always thought, well, in case we ever want to do some sort of a fee split,
Yeah.
he's never taken the bar, but he finished kind of begrudgingly. And then that was that.
So what year is this, like 2016, 2017?
No, this is before. It was our 10-year anniversary yesterday.
Nice. Congrats.
Thank you. But
Awesome.
that's since we were officially an agency. He was doing SEO for a year or two, just as a like self-employed type of scenario. So like 11, 12 years ago.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. And in Google time, that was like 100 years ago. I'm sure you've seen so many changes, right? So, I mean, AI, the world is different now digitally.
So
So
different. And it's funny because when we got into it, we were like, oh man, if we had gotten into this 10 years ago, this would have been so much easier. And then now we look back and we're like, whoa, those were the days. Like that
Yeah.
was so easy. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I always say it, right? They say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today, right? No matter what you're doing, digital, whatever the heck it is you're into, it's today is what matters. And so you guys took advantage of that day, and look at you now. Tell us about LawRank. Who do you get? I know you mentioned predominantly personal injury lawyers. Like, what services do you offer? What do you do? How do you help lawyers grow?
Yeah, I think a lot of lawyers are really jaded with SEO agencies because at the end of the day, what you're asking your agency isn't to be good because good isn't going to cut it. Or you want to think of it like a car race and only 3 people, maybe 3 to 5 in a market, maybe 7 firms in a market are going to generate 90% of the cases.
Right. Yep.
So you're asking your agency to be excellent. And we all know how hard it is to be excellent at anything. Like you and I travel a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you get a burger that sucks? I'm like, really, like 3 ingredients and like you can't get the burger right. So we really focus on the return on investment, right? We want to look at cost per case. And it used to be ranked number 1 for car accident lawyer and you're going to kill it. It's no longer that simple. We have to hit on multiple components. There's a local component, the organic component, the long tail searches or keywords. And then ideally, there's also an LSA component. And what we want is for clients to call our clients. So, their clients to call them and say, you were all over the internet. I had to call you. That's what we want. So it's not as simple as rank number 1 for a car accident lawyer. That's really sexy and that's great, but is it generating cases?
So before every podcast, I like to do my homework, and I've heard you mention, and I agree with it, repetition, right? It's not just like getting in the 3-pack. There's billboards, there's an ecosystem. Like, what's your approach to marketing for attorneys? And what do you educate your clients about, right? It's not just, it's the whole thing. Because everyone's looking for the magic bullet. Hey, Maria, I need to get on page 1 of Google for personal injury in Boston. Like, so that's tough. What do you tell your clients about working all the assets, right, in tandem so you can get to page 1?
Yeah. So if that's all a firm wanted, personal injury lawyer number 1, that's actually really easy.
Mm.
if that's all they want.
Okay.
Our clients don't want that. Our clients want cases. And that's more complicated than, again, the sexiness of ranking on the first page of Google. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Now, one of the problems that we have, and I don't know if it's a problem, but we primarily work with trial lawyers in the PI space.
Okay.
And what we hear a lot from trial firms is, I'm not going to do billboards. I'm not going to put my face in a billboard. We have some outliers that do, and we have some outliers that aren't like, they're not really trial firms, right? Not the way I think of it, at least. So that's always problematic, because in an ideal world, if you want your cost per case to be the lowest across all channels, you would do it all and there would be that repetition. But
Right.
most clients, they won't do it.
Billboards specifically?
Yep. Billboards, TV, radio, what I call offline advertising, they won't do it.
And I just started doing billboards about a month ago, and I'm new to it myself, but it must be, I don't know if it's frustrating, but your hands may be tied if, just like as being a lawyer, you give advice and the client says, no, I'm good, Maria. Okay. You can't make them do that, but that's tough, because when you're cooking with gas, like when you got the whole thing humming, like you could really kick some butt, I bet. Right. And help deliver.
Absolutely. I think the problem too is that a lot of trial firms, they're not really looking for volume. So if they can get a couple 7-figure cases a year, they're super happy, right? It's also not my ideal. My ideal is some sort of hybrid. They'll take the volume that we generate digitally, they'll work up those cases, they'll take the minimum policy cases, and then they're going to get their 7-figure cases. That kind of keeps them happy. What I don't love is the firms that refer everything unless it's a 7-figure case. We do have some clients like that. I just think it makes it really tough to control, because one year you can get 7 cases and the next year you can get 4. And it's really hard for us to control that.
That's a competitive game. Not only are we talking about personal injury, we're talking about the upper echelon, the highest value cases, 7-figure cases. There's only so many 7-figure cases in America, all right? So that's keen competition. That's tough. And if you can get it, if you get those cases, wonderful. But it's hard as hell, I would imagine. Is it hard to rank? Is it hard to digitally attract those cases, do you feel like? Because they're going to be checking out the lawyer. They're not going to just like, they're going to be doing some homework, right? Or
that's the benefit of working with trial firms.
Yeah.
Even if somebody starts off their journey with like very basic searches, they have the results to take on the case. I do think that the higher the value of the case, the more research the person is going to do, but that's not always the case. The reality is that that is not always the case. It just really depends on how educated the person is on this subject, who their community around them is, right? And what I tell all of our clients is, look, if somebody is educated enough, they're going to find you another way. It's going to be through a friend, through a lawyer they know, whatever. If they're not, then we want to make sure that you show up. And we do generate 7-figure cases from the internet, 1,000%. I have a client that once texted me and he was like, hey, in the past 24 hours, we generated 2 7-figure cases, 100% attributable to you. And he wanted us to keep doing that every day. I'm like, that's not how it works. He's like, no, I'm kidding. He was like, I'm kidding. I just want you to know, good job. Because one of my complaints is that clients don't tell me when it's going well. They only complain when it's like, oh, it's low this week, right? So certain clients really do a good job at saying like, no, I'm going to tell you when we have like these huge wins, right?
Right. Yeah. It's gratifying for you. That's just what you want to hear. That's like, that's what you're looking for. So, I as an attorney who's really into the business of law, I study marketing, and I love that. Now, I had to teach myself, because in law school, they don't teach you this stuff. They don't teach you about, marketing at all. So you have to teach yourself. So I seek out the knowledge, right? And that's what I think really is important, Maria, right? For attorneys to go to conferences. Things are changing with great accelerated speed. Talking about AI, right? There's so many things. We just we both went to Miami NTL last month. I talk about that conference all the time. That's a powerhouse event. That's a room you want to be in if you're trying to level up, you're trying to grow a law firm. I always talk about, Maria, this isn't the practice of law, it's the business of law. That's what we're doing. We're helping people with problems. We're providing a service. Now, I, as one who, a million years ago went to law school, right? I can speak to my experience. They didn't teach us jack about marketing. What mistakes do you see attorneys make when it comes to marketing, digital marketing, traditional, whatever? Where do you see them kind of get stuck and make mistakes?
How much time do we have?
Seriously.
So many. Specifically to trialers, they want their content to be written for their peers or judges. And no, we're targeting the average person. Again, the people that, are in that world are going to find you a different way, right? That's one. Another big one that I see is lawyers let their marketing coordinator make the call on which agency to go with, or they make a price-driven decision, and then they wonder why they're on their 10th agency and they've never seen ROI. Intake. Oh my God, intake. So many law firms think it's that's beneath me. I'm a lawyer. I'm here to practice law. And I'm like,
it's crazy.
Let's start with intake. One of our questions when we're first qualifying a potential customer is, tell me about your intake. And I just had a call the other day where the lawyer, legit trial lawyer, amazing results, I won't name them, but they're like, well, it rings on every phone in the office and the staff knows to pick up. And I'm like, I'm not going to work with you. They're in a major market, top 10 market. I'm not going to work with you if you don't get an intake spot. One person for intake.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's a big one. A lot of times I'm like, do you really have an issue that you don't get enough leads? Or are you just not working your leads properly? It's a sales team. Intake should be treated like a sales team. And that's my background, right? So for me, I wish I had the time to just go to someone's law firm and just learn how to do intake and set up intake. I think that'd be amazing if I had the time to do that, because intuitively I could do intake better than most firms, just intuitively.
Sure. And there's so much art to it. There's science to it, right? There's it's all sales. So when I have job ads out there, it doesn't say intake coordinator or new client specialist. It says sales. It's talking about, I want salespeople. I want people who like helping people, who have the stomach to go in for the kill, make the sale, right? I mean, empathy.
Just the tonality. I mean, sometimes I listen to intake.
Yeah.
They sound annoyed or, can't be bothered. I'm like, why would I work with you? There's a culture issue there.
Yeah. Right?
And they're like, well, that's, the intake specialist isn't me. And I'm like, they're representing you. In that moment, they are the firm. When we go to a hotel and we get poor service, do we think, it's just the person? No, I'm upset at the actual hotel.
100%. I just read a really good book. I studied Disney. I think Disney is fascinating. They're just experts at service, at taking money out of your pocket, basically, right? They're just wizards at everything they do. And this book was about, Disney looks at that their customers are comparing them to everybody, not just amusement parks or resorts, but the restaurants they go to, the shoe store they frequent, Amazon. So I would encourage the listener, make sure, and I just told my team about this yesterday during our daily huddle, our clients are comparing our service to other services that they encounter, be it, anything online, in person. It's not just law firms, but as it relates to law firms, Maria, that catastrophic case that's calling, they're probably going to call a few of the law firms, and that you're competing against them. How are you outfoxing them? How are you outwitting them and their product? How are you beating them? Right. And I would encourage the lawyers and listening, call your competitors and see how they're doing it. Right. I mean, have secret, call your own law firm and because if someone calls my law firm and they broke their leg and someone says, oh, so sorry. Hey, what's your social security number, or where'd you go to the hospital? It's like, whoa, man, I just broke my leg. So we're really empathetic, but a lot of lawyers, I know this, Maria, are not empathetic, and that's free. That's low hanging fruit. That's how you get big cases. It's one thing to have the credibility on the website. You've rang the bell. You have some big hits. if your intake sucks, you're not getting that case though. Someone else is going to get it.
I agree. It's literally one of my biggest annoyances, that and get reviews. Like
Yeah.
without reviews, I don't care how good we are at local and we're really, really good, we're not going to be able to do anything for you.
I feel like your hands are tied on a lot of levels. There's so much you control in terms of the outcome. There's so much you don't. You talk about intake, you talk about reviews, mindset of the business owner, right? Who's paying you. It's like so many things have to be done right. And I feel like if they're done right, as I said before, you're cooking with gas, then you can deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on. But there's so many things that are getting in your way, or out of any digital agency's way, that you can only impact so much. Like you can't force a firm to get reviews. At my firm, I'm obsessed. Like morning and night, reviews. That's why we have so many. But like it's just almost like frustrating for me to hear that you can only, it must be frustrating because a lot of these things, like, damn, like I can't do anything if the client doesn't do the work that they're supposed to do.
And there are agencies out there that they don't care. They just want to take your money.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're getting paid no matter what. So we're not that agency. So for us, we actually started a new incentive, and it's in beta testing right now, where we're emailing firms every single week with how many reviews they got last week, what the percentage of missed calls was, and we secret shop the firm to see how long it takes them to pick up. And I'm copied if anything is in the negative for more than a week. And then I'm emailing. And we had one client that 40% missed calls.
Wow.
I can't even make this up. Has never gotten us reviews. They actually went backwards in reviews. And I responded to the email like, hey, we got to talk. And they canceled. And I was like, good. It wasn't a good fit.
Yeah. 40% missed calls.
I'm not even exaggerating.
Holy smokes.
There's no exaggeration on my part. It was 40% missed calls.
That's so much money right there in that one day or week or months. That's just a lot of dough. Oh my God, That's getting me upset just listening to that. I understand. So all right, look, let's talk about the trial lawyer, right? They are, because I'm really focused on the business, but for a trial lawyer, say they're focused on trying cases. Yeah. What's the basic stuff they need to know about? Because attorneys need to be marketers. They can't live in a cave and expect cases to come their way. They have to market. What are some basic technical things they should be sensitive to, aware of, so they can make good decisions, right? So they can understand the digital marketing aspect that is crucial.
Yeah. So number one, I would say use a tool called Local Falcon to measure your Google business profile's performance within a 1 mile radius for non-geo-modified terms. So car accident lawyer, personal injury lawyer, truck accident lawyer. You can also do it geo-modified. I like it non-geo-modified better. What I mean by that is you don't have to put the city in the key term, because a lot of people don't do that, right? And you can run them both ways, but that would be the number one thing I would say. You should be ranking top 3 within a 1 mile radius. There are some exceptions. If you are in the suburbs, you could expand past the 1 mile. If you are in New York City, you're looking at 0.5 miles. That's it. That would be the number one thing, because what I think a lot of law firms don't understand is they Google from their computer, they Google car accident lawyer, and they're in their office and they show up number 1 or 2. Well, yeah, because you're in your office. There's a proximity portion of the algorithm that says you're looking for a car accident. You're in luck. You're in one, right? But if somebody's Googling for car accident lawyer out of your office, like you have bigger fish to fry, right? What happens when you walk across the street to Starbucks? It moves. It's really meant to show you someone near you. So that's for local. Any questions on that?
No, but can you just talk about reviews for a second? I know, obviously, I'm super sensitive to them, but like, how crucial are reviews for local? And can you just talk about like what's local SEO, right? What does that actually mean in the context of SEO in general?
Yeah. So if you run a search and you type car accident lawyer, you're going to see local service ads. You're paying per qualified lead. You're going to see Google ads. You're paying per click. That's usually going to be your highest cost per case, is going to be Google ads, assuming you've got the other 3 done correctly. Local SEO is going to be the map section where it shows you reviews. There's a map. It shows typically 3 firms. That's local SEO. Beneath that is organic SEO. I would argue that if you don't have the local component down, you're going to lose about 70% of your return on investment. That is not to say that with local by itself, you'd get that 70%. So you need multiple things to kind of click, but this is a very, very crucial component. And without reviews, we cannot do our job, period. There's nothing we can do. Now, I am not as worried, because I can already think of some of the questions you're going to have. I'm not as worried with firms getting 300 reviews, 400 reviews, 1,000 reviews. I am more worried, can you consistently get 5-star reviews? I don't ever want to see more than 2 weeks where a firm goes without getting a review. Ideally, you would get 1 review per week. If you're a larger firm, ideally you'd get 2 reviews per week. But it's just kind of setting a cadence and saying to Google, this is how many reviews we're going to get. And it just looks very natural. Does that make sense?
It does. It's not 50 in 1 week and you go 2 months without a review. That maybe looks a little bit odd. I'm sensitive to speed of reply to the review. I want to get on that, my team get on that quickly, that we're responding, we're interacting with our GMB. Is it still Google My Business or Google Places now?
I don't know if they changed it again. It used to be Google My Business, then it went to Google Business Profile. If they changed it again, I was not.
No, I think you're right on with that. I think Google Business Profile. But you got to get the reviews, get a response to them, engage. If you get nailed to the 1-star review, write that reply for the next person who's going to see that, right?
You're not writing for the person that wrote the review. You're writing for the third party. You want to be professional. You want to sound like you're helpful. I personally go to 1-star reviews first. That's what I want to see. How are people responding to the 1-star reviews? I am not super concerned with, do you have to respond within 10 minutes of getting a review? No, just part of what you do as a business owner. I wouldn't go a year without responding or even more than a month without responding. You do want to respond and thank the people because it shows that you're engaged, that you care about your business, that you care about providing the user, Google's users, with a positive experience.
Right. You're getting in there, you're uploading photos,
Absolutely.
You're getting reviews. But I don't know if it's considered a social platform, but you need to be like social on and interact with people. Like that's what you're doing. It's not just like you're engaging with people who are engaging with your business. It shows you care, right? It shows Google, oh, this business is interacting. And so, I was speaking to a organization on Friday, and one of the people in the audience said, hey, I got all 5-star reviews. That's the way I like it. I said, I don't want all 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
I don't want perfection. It makes me look suspect. Why is this dude Earley got all these 5-star reviews? If I get nailed by 1 star, it's like, I'm going to call the person, hey, where did we drop the ball? That happened recently. I heard the person out. I showed genuine care. Like, what happened? Tell me. He changed it, because like I showed I cared. If you get nailed with a 1 star, it happens. Don't be afraid of it. Now, I didn't say, hey, I need you to change that, but I showed him I care. Your 1 star, reflects that we fell short, and that's a problem. I don't like that. How can we do better? So care about this stuff, the business owner, law firm owner, Maria, right? Like care about this stuff, but like reviews, we just said a little while ago, the best place, the best time was 20 years ago. The best time is today. Start getting reviews. I'm in Boston, it's super competitive. I don't care if you have 10 reviews, start getting reviews today and build up that profile. That stuff matters, right? It's just low hanging fruit. Just pivoting for a second, right? AI is just hot, right? AI is here. We just talk about some basic things attorneys should know about, SEO, local search. What are some basic, let's talk about the trial lawyer. He or she is in court, rolling up the sleeves, trying cases. What's some basic things they need to know about in terms of AI and growing a law firm that they need to know about, you think?
So in terms of SEO, we don't use AI, especially for content. Although Google has said we're not going to penalize AI content, let's think about it for a minute. You guys think that they're going to reward AI content when AI is the biggest threat to Google? Also, like one thing that is super, super important is you guys are in the YMYL space, your money or your life. There are 3 categories that fall under this: health, finance, and legal. And this has been going on for a long time. It's nothing new. Whenever it's one of these 3 categories, Google treats them differently because they're so important. And it's the reason why when we go to ChatGPT and we put in our symptoms. It doesn't tell us what we have. It doesn't tell us what stocks to invest in, because these three categories are very crucial to our well-being, and they don't want any lawsuits. You guys still fall under that. So even any changes that roll out, you guys will be one of the last industries that are impacted by it, which is good, because when we track other industries, we know that the legal will be impacted last, or one of the last industries to be impacted.
That's fascinating what you just said about these personal, matters, right? That Google is sensitive to. I never thought of it like that. Legal, money, health, but it makes sense. I never
Totally.
heard. Yeah.
Intuitively, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but I never heard anyone say it, or I never even thought of it like that. I think that's important for the listener, right? That's super important. All right, we're talking about, successful attorneys getting 7-figure cases. What about, so when I started my practice, this 20 years ago, AI, there was no such thing, right? Websites are pretty new, actually. Blogging was really new. So I was like, I got nothing here. I got no money. I have no clients. I have no clue. I'm going to start blogging. And it was like the wild, wild west, right? You could rank, you could like keyword stuff. And, what was then white hat is now black hat, right? So yeah, it was different. But that was like 20 years ago. Okay. So like Chris Earley coming out of law school today, like, what can I do? I don't have a lot of money to spend on an agency, right? What are some things I can do to build up so I can level up? So at some point I can get an agency that can handle this for me. Like, what should a new Jack on the block be doing to become relevant online?
Yeah. So I think it's tough, the whole becoming relevant online. I do think that you need an agency, or at least you need to have knowledge to be able to do it yourself. What blogging was then, I think social media is now. That's the blog.
Okay.
There
Yeah.
are two things that I would do if I don't know, woke up in a twisted world tomorrow and was like, oh, I'm a brand new lawyer, but I know all that I know from this life.
Yep.
I would definitely do networking. I would do grassroots events, networking with my local community, with fellow lawyers that can refer me cases from other markets. So conferences, huge right there. And I would do social media. I would do social media from my phone, and I would post it like very straightforward.
I like that. I mean, social is free. Unless you're putting money behind a post, social is free. A little bit of sweat equity, right? So
A lot of sweat equity.
a lot of sweat equity. But sometimes, 1 + 1 = 3. I can create a piece of content on my phone, and I can put that on Facebook, Instagram, sometimes LinkedIn, TikTok. You just hit, and some things pop. We're not really delving too much into social, but now they brought up, I mean, like, lawyers should be on social. You should know about TikTok. You should know about.
Sorry to interrupt you, but it's starting to in the search terms. So
100%.
when people car accident lawyer, TikTok shows up.
100%. I heard, Maria, TikTok, I don't know if this is true or not, you know better than me. TikTok is taking away market share from Google with search.
I would not be surprised.
I know.
I wouldn't be surprised. Younger generations I see my kids, the way that they use technology, and it blows my mind.
I know you and I both know lawyers. They're building practices on social. They're getting leads on social. They're making money. They put money behind a post that does well. People have heard me say it before, Maria, on the show. I lean into authenticity. So I don't think people care about, hey, here are 3 things to do after a car accident.
No, nobody gives a shit. Sorry.
They don't care. They don't care. They care about, like, who's this person? Like, not just the lawyer, but like, what are they all about? And I lean into my story. I'm getting into it, backstory, crazy stuff. That's who I am. That makes up who I am, the parent I am, the spouse I am. So I talk about that, and then I'll sprinkle in, I'm a personal injury lawyer, because like I got a family to feed, so I can't just be obscure in the shadows here. But don't be so generic. Like I say, lawyers all the time, Maria, on stage, on a podcast, speaking, don't be that lawyer who's like mean on your website, arms crossed, intimidated. The clients are already freaked out by you to begin with. So be approachable. So if you have an agency getting you leads and they're going to your website, make sure that you're a friendly face. You look not overly serious and scary, and you want to be approachable. You could spend all this money, and like drive the leads. But if your intake is off, if your website is off-putting, might as well just burn that money. I mean, this is a whole, I think this is why you and I, we go to all these conferences. It's like, this is hard stuff. There's a lot to learn to do this at a high level. And it's like, so freaking, if you're not following this stuff, you're just going to be, left behind. And so I just wanted to, so again, I mentioned we both went to NTL Miami last month. And I thought the coolest thing, you were on stage and your cute, adorable son was watching mom in the front row. He was freaking, I have two kids. Your kid was adorable. And what was going through my head was he's looking at mom, teaching a big room. Like, even though he was so young, like that's really important. I feel like I'd like that. Getting away from the whole marketing thing. I just think that's cool from a parenting standpoint, like leading, showing by example, getting up there. The kids see that. I think that was really cool that you had him there. That was awesome.
Yeah. So funny story. He once looked at my Instagram, my Maria LawRank Instagram.
Yeah.
And he goes, "This is what you do at conferences." It looked like this party. I thought we were like sitting in a room listening to people. So I was like, I can't have him thinking that this is what I do. So we live in Miami. We moved a few months ago and all of my kids wanted to go, but I knew that the other two would not be able to sit through it.
Yeah.
And they were at the hotel and they begged me and almost cried. I was like, I am not risking it. I had to do the presentation for them right before I presented, I was like, perfect. I'll run through this once. I'll practice it.
Yeah.
And they couldn't even sit through it. They were like wrestling on the bed and jumping up and down. This is why you're not going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted him to see that, I leave a lot. I do about 14 conferences a year. Usually most, if not all, are not where I live. So I wanted him to see that I'm working,
Yeah. Yeah. Legit. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. I got maybe 8 conferences a year. And how do you, it's hard. Maria, I would go to a conference every week if I was like some single dude, but I can't, because I got, I'm married. How do you carve the time? Busy mom, busy professional. Like, how do you find the time to get away as much as you do? How do you do it?
I mean, I just do it. It's just like one of those things that you just do. And I think it's hard for people that aren't business owners to understand, right?
Right.
Like I get a lot of like weird, like almost like guilty messages from people, like in my real life, like, but aren't you going to get burnt out? And I'm just like, I don't think you get it. I love going to conferences. Like I genuinely enjoy it. I have fun. I grow my business.
Oh yeah.
They're used to it at this point. So it's actually harder when I would do less conferences.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Because they weren't used to it. So like every time I'd leave, I'd come back. They were now they're just, it's the norm. My husband is here. He has a lot of help, but he makes it fun for them. So like when I'm gone, things are more lax. Like they all sleep with him. They stay up late. They eat crap that I would never let them eat.
Of course.
So when I was like, I'm not going to be here for the Super Bowl, my boys went, yes. Really, that sucks. I just do it. Like, I don't know. I just suck it up, I guess.
Me too. Yeah. I mean, I've always said like dads have it easy. Moms, not so much. I mean, my kids, like they want mom, so I really respect what you're doing, the commitment. I know that must be a lot. I like conferences. Every time I come back, I'm a better business owner. Like I just met so many people. I spoke on stage at Miami NTL. That was like freaking awesome. So many connections were made. Let me ask you this. I asked a lot of people on the show this. If you got to give me one, if you could go to just one conference, one conference a year, why would you go there? Which one?
I would do Mardi Gras.
Okay.
But I would do Mardi Gras because it's like the most fun conference. And so many of my friends go and so many of our clients go. It's my favorite conference. It's just like no other conference.
I've never been. I know Bob Simon. I've been in contact with him. He's probably going to come on the show. He's heavily involved. So I got to check out that conference. I want to be respectful of your time. Wrapping up, what's your greatest success in life so far?
Oh my goodness. I would argue LawRank. We have an amazing reputation. Like people can ask around. We really, really do. So I'm proud of that, of what we've built.
You should be. You should be. How can people reach out to you? How can they get in contact with you?
They can email me directly at maria@lawrank.com. I'm also on Instagram, Maria LawRank. And then I also have a podcast, which you'll come on soon.
Can't wait.
Yeah, Tip the Scales. And what we do differently there is we record in person, typically at conferences. So it's one of the reasons I kind of have to go, because we're not doing any virtual recordings as of now. So yeah, we get to record in person. I have a full-time videographer that travels with me, and it's really fun.
Yeah, I would encourage listeners to check out your podcast. I've listened to a bunch of episodes. I really like it. And it's a different dynamic when you're in person with the person, right? Physically, I think it's a different show, right?
It is.
Yeah, I like what you're doing. It's a little different, and I think it's creative.
Yeah, we don't talk about SEO. I think a lot of people think it's not about that. We talk about running and growing a law firm. I don't prep. I know you said that you prep. I don't prep. I just literally sit down and have conversations.
Let it fly. I like that.
And they're recorded.
Yeah, I like that. Well, you're doing a great job, so keep doing that. It's great. Hey, look, for the listener, if you don't have a podcast, start a podcast, right? Right, Maria? Yeah. There's so many ways to leverage that asset.
Just content out, like
100%.
Everyone's like, you do such a great job at social media content. I'm like, what? I don't post anything. It's all of the Tip the Scales content that's being posted.
You cut it up, right? You cut it up. And, yeah.
Yep. We cut it up. We do YouTube. We do shorts. We do.
I've seen a TikTok too. You're putting on TikTok.
So I don't have TikTok. I'm sure it's there. I'm just not. I'm like really scared of TikTok, because I will admit that I totally have an addiction to Instagram.
100%.
So, and I've been trying to post more, as I'm sure you've noticed, on LinkedIn.
Good for you.
But I do if it's not a Tip the Scales post, I do all of my own social media posts. So for Maria LawRank, I do create my own reels from conferences. And then I do all of my LinkedIn posts. So I just have to remember to do them.
I love it. I'm really high on LinkedIn, Maria. I post every day.
That's when I was like, I need to have you on.
Well, because you get in front of so many people, and it's free. It's so low leverage. It's easy.
Yeah, I've been lagging. I've been better this year, but it's a lot. It's so many moving pieces. But I am trying to do better on that one.
Yeah, well, you're crushing it. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I really appreciate you having me on, and I can't wait to have you on mine.
I'm looking forward. All right, guys. Thanks. That's it for this episode of The Earley Show. Be sure to check out more episodes of our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the Answering Legal YouTube channel.